أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي يفوض أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد. Assalamu alaikum jamian wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our journey into Ayatul Kursi, the verse of the throne in the Holy Quran. So last week we discussed Ilah, the entity that liberates us and takes care of our honor, because all honor lies in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we discussed how honor is something that we need to look deeper into and what it means to us. And so in the sequence of the names of Allah that show up in Ayatul Kursi, today we are going to look into Allah's name Al-Hayy. And I'm very excited about this name of Allah because it is one of those very prestigious names of Allah that are part of the hadras of the mystic circles, the Sufi circles. You know, when they do the zikr, the name Al-Hayy is a very prominent name that we see. And we're going to look at why this name is so essential to our spiritual growth and what it holds for us. So I have a few books in front of me, and I'm going to be going back and forth with them. But to just begin with my own thoughts, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. So Hayy and Qayyum are the two names of Allah that we see a lot together. And Hayy is that name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is a direct meaning of the word life. So I'm going to read out some of the meanings that we see in the root words of the root meanings of this word. Okay, so ha, ya, ya, hey, ye, and ye, three letters that are used to form the word al-hayy, and it has a lot of interesting meanings. Some actually sound quite contradictory, but I'm just going to read it out. To live, be alive, be ashamed, spend the night awake, fertilize the earth, keep anyone alive, spare anyone, let anyone alive, remove prudency, modesty, and shamefulness, make immodest, to be in good condition, have the means of sustenance, to be apparent or distinct, have prolonged or preserved life, free from evil or harm, have dominion, be honored, receive benefit, to salute, to enliven, revive, give life to nourish, vivify, revivify, revive, resuscitate, endue, quicken with life, set of land, to be tilled and made productive, to remain awake, to shrink from a thing, to forbear, to feel or have a sense of, or to be moved or affected with bashfulness, shame, and shyness, be ashamed, shy of doing a thing, disdain or scorn a thing, abstain from a thing, refuse to do it. Okay, so mainly it's about giving life, resuscitating, in living, vivifying, but it also has these meanings of feeling some sort of shame and having scorn and to abstain from doing a thing. And you know, there were some other words like to remain awake and to have dominion and to preserve life. And I think that today's discussion and the continuing discussion, if we do continue it into more sessions than one, that all these meanings will start making sense to us in terms of life. Now, when we look at the word Al-Hayy, the one who gives life, we have to understand that this world of manifestation, this life on earth, is a life of opposites. And so, in order to understand anything, we have to understand its opposite as well. And for example, we cannot understand the importance of light unless we have experienced darkness. And in order to experience Al-Hayy, we have to experience Al-Mumit as well. Now, what I mean by that is that life and death go hand in hand. And with each other together, life and death together, can we make sense of each one of them? Because, Dr. Wayne Dyer has this beautiful saying, which really shook me when I read it. He said, this life is a parenthesis in eternity, just two brackets within eternity. And so in order to understand the value of this parenthesis, this little extract that we're experiencing on earth, we have to be able to understand what death is, what not having life is. And that gives value to life here. And what gives value to life here is the understanding that this moment can fleet, this moment can leave us, that it can escape us so quickly. And it can leave us in a blink of an eye without any prior preparation, that we have to value this moment right now. And that's why death is something that complements the value of life. And in this world of manifestation, for anything to manifest itself, it has to have its opposite. What I mean by that is, on earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is manifesting his names. And I heard this beautiful saying from Sayyid Abbas Razavi, and he was explaining that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. For anybody to show his mercy, there has to be an opposite of mercy on which the mercy can be shown. So when there is somebody in pain is when you can go out and show your mercy towards that situation of pain. And in order to alleviate their pain, only in that process can you show your sense of mercy. For example, there can be healers, there can be doctors, but for a doctor to manifest its healing power, somebody needs to be sick. So if there was no sickness in the world, we would not be able to express our healing quality. And in the same way, if there is no pain in the body, Panadol cannot show its effectiveness. Now imagine you have no pain in your body and you have a Panadol, it's not going to do anything because you didn't have any pain. But if you had pain, that's the only time Panadol can show its effectiveness. So in order to express any quality, the opposite needs to be available for us to express and manifest. And in that way, the qualities that we want to share with the world can come through us. And that is something that, again, Gary Zukav is discussing in his book, The Mind of the Soul. And I'm just going to come to that what life is and how life is about a manifestation of our gifts and who we are. So to come to life is to come to life in every moment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expresses in the Quran an ayat, which I didn't get the time to find the exact verse. And I think it's a verse in Surah Rum, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there are people who are sleeping in the night and in the day. And scholars say that when we talk about people sleeping in the day, we're actually talking about a sense of being in an oblivion, being inattentive, not being awake, being in a state of slumber. Slumber of the sort where you're just doing life on autopilot, right? And I always give this example. You eat food, you get up, you go to the washroom, you wash your hands, You wipe your hands and suddenly you realize, did I wash my hands? When did I wash my hands? It's because your mind was somewhere else. You were thinking about something else, but your body was here. And that is a state of duality where your mind is somewhere else and your body is somewhere else. You're thinking about something else, but you're doing something else. And you have lost that sense of presence. You are not present in that moment. Being present means to be where you are, to do what you're doing with complete sense of attention and being awake to that moment, being there in that moment, and understanding that what you're doing right now should also be done with your inner presence. If you are washing hands and you are in a state of presence, then you are thinking about the water, you're thinking about where the water is coming from. Is it filtered? Is it clean? Does it have fluoride? How does it feel? Is it cold? Is it warm? How much water I'm using? Is it refreshing? Are you feeling gratitude for that water? And so you immerse yourself in that present moment. And also, what is the importance of journeying through this life in this body? Okay. And I mean, we have a lot that we hear and a lot of conditioning that we've had where the world has been bashed and it's so bad and don't get attached to your body, and the worldly life is not of importance, all of that. But what is the value of experiencing this opportunity called life, which is a once in a lifetime experience, but Allah has chosen this vehicle, this body? So one of the most amazing insights I ever had about the importance of body was when I was doing Qigong. And Qigong is all about experiencing the energy in your body and using that energy for your spiritual growth. And I was there, and the insight I had was that our entire work in our spiritual journey is to be in a state of presence, to be in the present moment, to detach and cut ourselves out of our past and our future, to not grieve over the past and to not worry about the future, but be in that state of present moment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I have created the world for you and I've created you for me. And we find the divine in the present moment. That means the body is serving this purpose of bringing ourselves into the present moment. The body is that tool, that gift, that resource we can use to come into the present moment. And how we do that is by feeling in our body. And why I'm saying that is because the most amazing thing about this body is that it only exists in the present moment. It doesn't exist in the past and it doesn't exist in the future. The physical body has that quality that it cannot exist in the past or future. So your body is the gift you have through which you're experiencing this life on earth, which only exists in the present moment. So that's why, the practice of salah and the practices of meditation and breathing are all about using the body to bring us into the present moment. Now, when we breathe, we can only be breathing in the present moment. So when we bring our attention to the feelings and the sensations of our breath, we are detaching and cutting ourselves out of the past and the future, and we're coming back into the present moment. It also helps to cut ourselves off from our thoughts, because the thoughts that we think are the actual reason why we get stuck in the past and future. And so if we can cut off that flow of thoughts and come to a place of no thought, then we cut off from past and future. And that's something the body is giving us. In the same manner, if we can pay attention to washing our hands, feeling the sensations of hot and cold, when we breathe in and out, the hot, the air that goes in is cooler and the air that comes out of the nostrils is warmer. If you can pay attention to these little things and reflect and go a little deep into the miracle of the body, it brings us into the present moment. When we do the salah, it's a saying of Imam Khomeini alayhi salam, and he says that when you're in a state of ruku, you should not be thinking about the sajda. It's that kind of presence that we're looking for, and the body gives us that. The body can be in a state of ruku, and it can bring us into that sensation of being in the present in that position. And then when you're standing, you're just standing. And when you're in sajda, you're just in sajda. So all of these practices and these rituals that we see are not the end, but they are a means towards an end. They are taking us to our ultimate purpose, to our ultimate place. And our place and our destination is not anywhere in the future. It is not somewhere that we are going to reach one day, but we can reach there in every second and in every moment, in every millisecond of our life. And that is the present moment. So mystics and teachers say that the present moment is the portal to the divine. It is a portal to infinite possibilities. It is a portal to the ultimate purpose in our life, the present moment. So to come to life in every moment is to attach ourselves to the source moment to moment. Now, in the collective truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that life force. He is that consciousness that is throbbing through everything we experience, everything we can see, touch, or smell. It is throbbing with the life. It is throbbing with the manifestation. There's a palpable existence to that thing. This book exists, this pencil exists. It is there. I can touch it. I can feel it. As a child in school, this is how I used to get lost into daydreaming, that this pencil has atoms in it. And then now we know that they're quarks, which are even tinier particles. So it's made up of these tiny, really tiny particles called atoms, which are the building blocks of life. And that atom is buzzing with energy. It has these electrons whizzing around it, around the neutron and the proton. And that energy is keeping this pencil alive. It's giving it its existence. It is giving it its shape and size and color and sheen and the ability to do something. And so there is a life force that is creating the existence of this apparently lifeless thing. So everything around me right now, my desk, my laptop, everything has a life. And the life in every single object that we experience, living or non-living, is that one life force. We know today, right? Even if I say, let me not be religious, let me not do religious talk today. And even just if I look at it from a scientific viewpoint, every single thing has an atom. And that atom has an energy. And that energy is letting the electrons go around the proton and the neutron. Every single thing has these limited number of elements, whether it's the human body, whether it's the planets, whether it's the stars, whether it's the dust, whether it's the book, a paper, a pen. That life force is the same in every single thing we experience. And that life force is what we call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so wherever we turn is the face of God, because the life force is manifesting itself as all of this manifestation in its solid form in this realm of existence on earth. Now, to attach ourselves to the source then means to remember the thread behind the fabric of life that we are experiencing, the manifestation that we're experiencing has a thread that is building it. And that thread is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is same, uniform, continuous, in every single object. That is the life-giving force. And please remember that whatever I'm expressing of what I'm understanding is just my very limited and flawed understanding and explanation, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly cannot be fathomed. We cannot touch or reach his essence. They say in Tao, the Tao that can be named is not Tao. Tao as in God. The Tao that can be named is not Tao. The God that can be named or understood or spoken of is not really God. So God has this infinite expression that we cannot touch or reach. But what we're doing here is just crawling towards it, just really struggling to understand and fathom, because that is the limitation we have. So we're doing it in our own limited capacity. So in order to come to life in every moment, we have to be aware and we have to be in the state of presence of this life force that is the source of life in everything and everyone and every being in every moment. And to sleep then to become unaware, to forget, to be in a state of forgetfulness of the source of life, to the power behind the fueling of this existence, the powerhouse that is electrifying, giving this palpable existence to life, is what we need to always remember as the source. Now, what I always try to bring our attention back to is the understanding of Tawheed and the La ilaha illallah. And that is where speaking La ilaha illallah has to become a practice. It should not just stay a sentence which is a description. There is no God but Allah. Okay, this is a description. This is a sentence which has an adjective in it, and it is explaining to us who is Allah. Allah is one, there is no God but him. But for us, it has to become a verb. The La ilaha illallah has to become this reality of action. And how does Tawheed or La ilaha illallah become an action is in the remembrance of the source. So when we remember that the source of everything is one, and the source of everything is all powerful, all controlling, all connected, then we start to have a very tangible experience of our direct vertical connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where everything in life becomes possible. We become co-creators of our life in the present moment, because we now do life from a level of consciousness, from a state of awakenedness. And how I'm saying that is, when we understand that the things I seek and the desires I hold in me, and my heart has a yearning for something, and I have some goals to achieve in life, and if I get stuck in the worldly existence, if I get stuck in the horizontal existence, then I will only see limitation. I will only see obstructions, obstacles, and I will see how difficult things are, because we will find infinite number of examples of people who are not doing okay. They are sick. They're not, they haven't made it in life. They're struggling. They're I mean, a lot of these deaths and atrocities in life, it's enough for us to feel despair and feel that things don't work out. But that's the cause and effect, right? Now, I met a cancer patient yesterday, and her cancer has stopped spreading, and she was looking good, and I complimented her, and then I was telling them about this book that I read, Cured by Dr. Jeff Rediker, and I'm inshallah going to be interviewing him on my Instagram if anybody's interested. The Instagram handle I have is Fatma Agha Art, and my interview is happening on the 5th of April, 9 p.m. Karachi time. So when I met her and I was talking to her about the book Cured, In that book, Dr. Rediger has discussed cases after cases after cases of people who were at the last and the most intense stages of cancer, but they experienced remission. They experienced cure. They experienced complete healing. And there was a turning around of their disease in their body. While the doctors told them you have a couple of weeks to live, couple of months to live, these people have continued to live on. What happened there is that if you read their stories, you realize that they developed a connection to the divine in a way where they cut off their expectations of anything from the horizontal reality. When you cut off from that which is dead, every single thing in front of us is being enlivened, it is being given life very deliberately and consciously in every millisecond. On its own, it is dead. This is all perishable, right? Our bodies are perishable. Nothing has that life forever. It doesn't have the permanence. So how is it that something which is impermanent and dead itself can be a source of life? Okay. And if we can slowly go on a journey to go to the thread behind the fabric, the life behind everything, we touch that which is alchemical. We touch that which can change and transform us forever. If we can get in touch with life itself, then we become independent of our reliance and dependence on anything other than life itself, because everything else in contrast to that life is dead. It's not alive. It doesn't have life of its own. Even us, we are only alive for as long as life is given to us deliberately through every breath. That is why it is said that the way they say it is that breath you just took was a gift. Every breath is given to us deliberately. And so what happens is that when we contemplate and we reflect and we sit and we try to fathom this life that is beyond everything that is in front of us, and we start attaching to that La ilaha illallah, that one power, that one source behind the facade, the scaffolding of life, we start to touch that which is infinite and all possible. And so these people who experience life after experiencing news of death, in itself, the news of death, Dr. Rediger has a chapter which is saying that the news of death has given life to so many of these people. And he explains it really beautifully, and maybe I can explain it sometime. But what happened to these people is that when the doctors gave up on them and they said, you don't have much to live for and all you can do is spend some good time with your family, these people now had no hope in the doctors, right? They said, okay, medicine is not going to help, doctors is not going to help. So what is going to help? And they started looking for that alternative away from the cause and effect of taking a pill and feeling the relief, taking chemo and having the result. They just let go of anything worldly that could save them. And they connected on a deeper level with the divine, prepared themselves for death. And in their preparation for death, what happened to these people, and most of them write this, that they changed as who they were. The life they were living all these years completely changed, because now they said, I don't have much time to live. So I need to do what I need to do. I need to take care of my affairs. I need to go meet the people. I need to set my affairs right with people. I wanted to do adventure. I need to do that. So all these people started to finally get down to their bucket lists. They gave up the idea that they have a lot of time. They gave up on the idea that somebody's coming to save them from this reality. And they started to do the things that they were meant to do all of this time. And in doing so, when they mended their relationships with their relatives and they um, started to travel or eat well or take care of their bodies or, prioritize themselves. One of the ladies in this book had this severe condition where the backbone gets calcified. So the gaps between your vertebrae get filled with calcification, calcium gets filled in. It becomes like a straight rod, and eventually, you die because of that condition and you don't have much time to live. And she realized that she had never taken care of her health, and she had never taken priority of her body and her life and herself. And so she starts to do this intuitive thing where she feels she should do yoga, while the doctor said, no, you shouldn't be moving, your body's not going to respond, all of that. And she does not listen to the doctors, and her heart is just saying, I think yoga will help me. And she's going into yoga, and every day when she's moving her body, she's imagining in her mind that all the calcification from between the vertebrae is falling off as I'm moving, and as I'm moving my vertebrae, all these calcifications are falling off, my vertebrae are getting cleared up. She's visualizing, she's moving her body, she's got all these millions of things to do, but she's taking time out for herself. And she says that my body was telling me, you know what, you've really not taken care of myself. You've not taken care of me, all this time. So I'm done. I give up. This is what her body was saying. And she kind of went back to pamper her body and saying, you know what, I need to take care of myself. And she lived on and on and on. And she had kids. And I mean, if you read these remarkable stories, they are beyond anything that can be put into a formula. Every human being mentioned in that book goes back to their heart and their intuition. And they start listening to the voice in their heart and saying, what is it that I feel like doing? What is it that I feel I should do? One of the ladies, she was so sick that she just had a couple of weeks to live. And she takes a loan or help or something from somebody, and she goes to a healer in Brazil. And when she goes there, she finds healing, and she's never been more alive and healed than she is now, free from all disease. So cases after cases after cases of people who have defeated disease and they have come back to life. And standing in the mouth of death has given them the reason to live, the means to live, the resources to bring their dead bodies back to life. And that is Al-Hayy. Al-Hayy is always in contrast to Al-Mumit, the one who gives you death and then he brings it back to life. Al-Hayy is the one who gives life to the dead land. In Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the soil and how he brings dead land to life, and when he says that we bring you back we bring you to life from dead, it is this life that in every moment we have this opportunity to realize the power we hold within ourselves. The power that we have is that we have a plug, okay? Like this is, it's a USB plug, right? Now we have this plug, and all we need to do is plug it into the power source. And if we can realize that power we have in every moment that we plug ourselves into the source, then we become alive. Then we have that power to heal ourselves on so many levels and come back to a life that is worth living. Whether it's our relationships, our emotions, or the purpose in our life, we have that in every moment. And In my home, I have staff and they're helpers in my home that help me. And they come from very underprivileged backgrounds. There's a lot of poverty in Pakistan. And I used to think about Allah's name, Adil, right? That He does insaf, He does adl, He does justice. And I would look at these people and it would break my heart to see the kind of backgrounds they come from and the lives they live and the conditions they have to bear. And and then, when we go into our spiritual journey, we understand that everybody's path is chosen, designed, decided, and it's something that is assisting them in their spiritual journey. And then I would wonder that, okay, fine, but then I have access to books and I can read and I have all this technology that helps me grow spiritually as well. What about them? And one day I was sitting with one of them and she told me that she had a dream. She was a victim of physical violence and abuse, physical abuse from her husband, and he took away all her assets and beat her up, threw her out of the house. She was working in my house and as to hear her story. And then her father passed away. So she was really, really upset. She was really in a lot of pain. But she had this beautiful, bubbly personality. Like she could make jokes and she could laugh and she would be cheerful and smiling. And one of the things I really admired about her is that every weekend when she would go on her day off, she would dress up like it was the last day of her life. Like she would put on her lipstick and she would dress up and she'd go out. And I really found that in living, like it was so beautiful to see somebody so full of life after going through so much pain and atrocity. And I was sitting with her and I talked to her and she said that, I've had dreams. And I said, okay. And she said that, when I was really, really upset and I was really crying and sad and I went to sleep, I saw the Holy Prophet ﷺ in my dream. And he was there and he was calming me, and my father was there, and they were both, caressing my head. And they were saying, don't worry, things are going to be fine and everything's going to work out. And, things are going to be okay. And she said that, that gives me so much solace and it gives me so much peace that, they're there and they're listening and they're taking care of me. And eventually, I helped her out with her divorce because it's very difficult. It's been very difficult for women to get their divorces here. And the laws changed over here recently, and she got a divorce. Um, and a very nice young man. This lady, she had 3 kids, but there was a young man who was really interested in marrying her. He was never married before, but she was in love with her, and he married her. And now she's happily married with her 3 kids. And this was life taking a turn. This was a dead life coming back to life. And what I saw there was that everybody is in the beautiful arms of God, being taken care of. And we think that, how is there so much discrepancy in the world, and there's poverty and there's abuse and, all of that. And some are more privileged than the others, but she had the privilege of seeing the Holy Prophet in her dream. I don't know if there's a greater privilege in life, but she was given a gift. She was blessed, and her life turned around and things changed with the life force that she was connected to, the divine power that she was connected to. It was changing her life. It was bringing new life into her existence. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always taking care of us, and there is no him leaving us or abandoning us. There's a beautiful saying that I recently heard, which said, one is not a seeker, but is sought. one is not a seeker but is sought. And this is from these two talks that I was listening to by, I think his name is Sidi Harun. He's a revert to Islam. He's written this book, Signs on the Horizon. And this book that he's written, and then he's written a few sequels after that. Yes, his name is Michael Sujik, if I'm saying it right, Sujik or Sujik. Michael Sujik, and he's a revert, so now his name is Harun. And he's written this book, Signs on the Horizon, in which he's written about lives of reverts and Muslims he's met in his life, and a lot of them, or most of them, are saints. They're saints, but they don't come across as saints. And he writes in these books miraculous encounters with these people. He writes about how their lives changed, how they came into the fold of faith, and how he would have these unexpected experiences and synchronicities in his journey, meeting people and seeing things, miracles happening. And in that interview, he's explaining how, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking each one of us, holding us by his hand and bringing us to where we need to reach. He is constantly giving us life and constantly awakening us through these synchronicities and experiences and miracles. And, there were cases of criminals. One of the stories he was saying was that there was a man he was a pimp, and he got in touch with a woman who was a Muslim, and she saw him in a certain state and told him that, I think you should read the Quran. And he read the Quran, and his life changed, and his life just transformed. And in these stories, what he's explaining is that the water of life for the soul, the life-giving waters that are gifts from Allah, they come in all sorts of containers. They're always coming towards us. We don't realize it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is never leaving us. He's constantly on our case. He is I think he's a very smart helicopter parent who doesn't make us feel like he's a helicopter parent. You know what a helicopter parent is? Is a parent who's constantly protective of their child, constantly getting in the way, constantly saying things, do this, do that, don't do this. So when we do parenting workshops, they warn us in this. Don't be a helicopter parent. Give your children the free will and let them do things and let them make mistakes. But then some of us are helicopter parents, and we just can't leave our kids alone. And I think that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does is that he parents us in this beautiful way where he gives us this massive amounts of free will. But even in his free will, he's always there. He's always taking care of us. He's always holding our hand. He's always with us, reminding us, awakening us to the reality of life. And what he's really trying to do is to remind us of our magic, the magic that we hold within. And we so often become oblivious to the life that we hold within ourselves. Now, in connection to this discussion on life, I opened this page 166 on Gary Zukav's book. And it said, internal abundance is realizing you are worthy of your life. Recognizing the potential for spiritual growth your struggles offer you, and trusting the universe. It is also the joy of being alive, awe of your responsibility for what you create, relaxing into the present moment, and knowing that you have non-physical assistance when you need it. So what is life? Is to connect to that non-physical assistance that we are constantly presented with. We always have this non-physical help. And we can actualize ourselves. We can reach the destination of expressing and manifesting the names of God through us, which is the purpose of our life, by understanding that we have this internal abundance. In the beginning of our talk today, I was talking about this sense of limitation, right, that we experience when we connect to the horizontal world. Why? Because the horizontal world is limited. There's a limitation of time, there's a limitation of space, there's a limitation of resources, perhaps, because I always say this, that when I did economics in my school, the first thing they said, unlimited wants and limited resources. Okay. And some time ago, recently, I was sitting with my husband, and he's a really good economist. Like, he's really awesome at the economics. And I was talking to him, and I said, have you realized that they always say that we have unlimited resources, we have limited resources, and the resources on Earth get produced mostly with solar energy, fossil fuel, or solar power, or the growth of plants, or the food. All of these are our resources, and they're connected to the sun. And I told him, I said, well, but the sun is giving us unlimited energy. We don't have a limitation to sun's energy, and yet we say that we have limited resources. It doesn't add up. And he agreed with me, and he said, yeah, you're right. Sun is giving us unlimited energy. There's no limitation. That means that the byproducts of sun's energy are also unlimited. And the wind pressure is produced through the sun and the heat of the air pressure, which gives us wind power. We have solar power. All of this, the sun is giving us, it's unlimited, and yet we think that we have limitedness. And it's ironic. It's just an illusion. The fear of lack and scarcity is an illusion. It is not real. So in truth, we have unlimited resources, and we have this internal abundance that is coming from the very source of life itself. And we have access to that power. And that comes when we start understanding that we are worthy of life, that we deserve this life, and recognizing the potential for spiritual growth in our struggles, and trusting the universe that whatever is coming our way has this potential for us to grow and realize our true gifts and powers within us. And he says that it is also the joy of being alive and the awe of your responsibility for what you create. What is this awe of responsibility for what we create? Even when we smile, this smile is a creation, and it is having an effect. We can make somebody's day through this smile. It's a creation. And that smile can make someone feeling lonely, unseen, invisible, can make their day, right? There are people who don't find themselves worthy of attention, and we're nothing, but they may find some value in our attention towards them. And that little smile can completely turn around somebody's day, And that's the awe in the creation we create as co-creators on the planet, that what we give life to, when we create something, we're giving life to it, right? It didn't exist. Now, you look at somebody who's got a dead face like this, and you look at them and they don't respond. They're just like this. And You just smile and you look at them and you just greet them, and suddenly you're alive and you bring life into this world, and you change the environment and the energy just with a smile, and you created something which didn't exist before, and that's life. And to have the awe for that little act, but done consciously with a presence and the right intention, it's the power we hold within ourselves to change so much moment to moment, that we have to have that sense of responsibility towards what we're creating constantly in every moment. We're bringing something into life through our presence. This is Al-Hayy working through us. This is Al-Hayy manifesting himself through us. And then Gary Zukov says, relaxing into the present moment. And just right now, just relax your shoulders, just relax. And some of us, when we are tense, our tongues touch the palate of our mouth. Just bring your tongue down, ease your jaw, and soften your gaze, and just bring in that sense of presence in the present moment. You're loved, you're held, you're supported, you're safe, you're looked after, and this presence can get us in touch with our hearts, the voice in our hearts, the intuition in our hearts, which connects us to what Gary Zukov is saying next. He says, knowing that you have a non-physical assistance whenever you need it. And through this practice of bringing in reflection and connection and self-compassion, self-appreciation, we connect to that divine power that is always there to assist us and bring life to every dead moment, so that, we can live every moment in presence, in connection, on our calling and purpose, making deliberate actions part of our common practice, so that who we are and what we're doing is happening as a conscious process of who we want to be, who we decide to be, who I choose to be, and not be run by an uncontrolled, wild algorithm, an uncontrolled programming within me that is controlling me, and I don't have any power over myself. So taking that step of bringing in the courage to smile at somebody who never smiles at us, and bringing in the empathy and saying, maybe this person is going through a lot. Maybe they need a smile today. Maybe they don't smile because they have too much pain in their life or too much hurt, which I don't know of. Maybe they're going through something, and my smile will be my effort in bringing Al-Hayy into this life. And with that intention, I have that power to be who I want to be in that moment, instead of feeling like a victim of my circumstances and my experiences and the outer exterior life. Instead of feeling like a victim, instead of feeling like things are not in my control, instead of feeling like I'm just here and I have to do this and I have to work this, you bring in a sense of life into your moments, where you bring in that power that you hold within you to create something, to bring life to something, to practice Al-Hayy in so many dimensions of our life. We start to take the control and power of who we want to become in this moment. And in this moment, to take that power back of choice, we become the emulation of God's name. Because God holds Qudrat, He's Qadir, He has power. God holds life. God brings to life. And in that moment, when we are choosing to become who we want to become, kind, loving, smiley, cheerful, chirpy, you know, in that moment, we become Al-Qadir and we become Al-Hayy. We become an extension, a manifestation of that name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in so doing, we come closer and closer in our characteristics to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in this book, I want to end today's session with a practical advice that they've given, because they have this beautiful section where they give a practice, like you can practice something. So, it's just a practice. I will also try to do it, and it's something I would like to share with you. So when do you have enough? This is the name of the practice. In what areas of life do you feel a scarcity? For example, do you feel a shortage of any of the following? Time, friends, talent, good looks, money, love, attention. Make a list of what you don't have enough of. Circle the items on your list that you're willing to look at from a new perspective and consider each. And as you do, notice any thoughts you have about how you don't have enough. Notice any painful sensations in your body, such as tight shoulders, clenched jaw, upset stomach, or pain in your chest. Ask yourself, am I willing to open to the possibility that it is my self-value that is lacking and not what I think is lacking? My self-value that is lacking and not what I think is lacking. If yes, then set the intention to heal the frightened parts of your personality that feel they don't have enough, and consider the possibility that you are valuable, you're loved, and internally abundant. This is the key part of the practice. You sit in silence, take a few deep breaths, calm yourself. And in doing so, we cut off from the chaotic looping thoughts in our mind. So, when we take a few deep breaths and we still ourselves, we come back into our body and we feel cutting off, like we've cut off from the chaotic thoughts. And then set the intention. See, our job is to set the intention. Our job is to say yes, not how. This is also one of my favorite lines from Wayne Dyer's work. Say yes, don't say how. Don't say how it's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to heal myself. I don't know how I'm going to let go of this fear. I don't know how I'm going to fix myself. I'm so broken. Just forget about the how. You want to heal, right? Just say yes. Yes, I'm ready. I set the intention. What is the intention? Set the intention to heal the frightened parts of your personality. And I have a question. I'm going to get to that. I've got a question in the chat. Set the intention to heal the frightened parts of your personality that feel they don't have enough. And consider the possibility that you are valuable, loved, and internally abundant. And what our masters and our teachers advise us to do is that when you do sit like this and you feel a certain sensation in your body, close your eyes and think of the image of Allah's name, Allah. And we can also think of Al-Hayy with Allah. And then think of this beautiful light entering your heart from the heavens. And then you take this light and you use this light to heal the hurting parts, the frightened parts of you. And keep bringing in that light with the dhikr of Allah's name. And set the intention for Allah to heal those parts of us which are feeling fearful, which are feeling hurt, which are feeling out of balance. I have a question in the chat, and I was actually thinking that, sometimes the audience who hear the recordings, they don't benefit from our questions, and the question and answers I get from you guys are so awesome. So the question I have today is, what if you feel lack of meaning and purpose in life? Now, A lot of times, we are conditioned into a certain kind of purpose and meaning, you know, and sometimes it's a nagging void within us. So it is either something that is dictated by the world, and the world is saying you need to have a purpose, you need to have a calling, you need to have a profession, you need to have, I don't know, like what, we always ask the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, kind of thing. So that is something that the world imposes on us by saying, um, you know, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to see yourself in 10 years? So that is something the world imposes on us. And honestly, every single time I've answered that question, I've never done that. Like, I've just ended up being something else. But then there's another feeling of feeling this complete emptiness and void within yourself. You wake up with this empty hole every morning, feeling like, I don't have a meaning, I don't have a purpose. Now, if it is the first case where you feel a pressure from the world to dictate to you what your purpose needs to be, then you have to heal yourself by letting go of that imposition. There's an imposition. You've been imposed with something from the outside. And what I've noticed with a lot of people is that there is this voice of should. I should be this. I should do this. I should. And then there's a voice in your heart, which is simply saying something very simple, very, very basic. Like imagine the society telling you that you need to have a high corporate position, but your heart is saying, I want to be a house dad. I just want to be a home dad, for example, right? I just want to have kids and take care of my kids at home, and my wife can go and work. This is just a random example. The should in us won't allow us to do that, because the should is saying, you know what, that's just wasting your life. You're just, that's not the purpose of life. You need to go and do this and that, big things, be an astronomer, I don't know what. But the path to our actualization cannot be dictated from the outside. That is why the practice is to keep going back to your heart. And you have to go back to your heart so that you can align your journey with your calling, with your purpose and your meaning. I have women who struggle because I know a friend who struggled for years with finding her purpose. And eventually she found peace in just being home with her kids and taking care of her home, to be a homemaker. And she said, well, why can't that be my purpose? And I said, for sure. Your purpose is in your heart. And the biggest thing we can do ever is to groom little kids. I mean, a kindergarten teacher is doing one of the greatest services to humanity, but we don't put it as something great or big. She won't be like the first woman who stepped on moon, but she's the one who enabled that astronomer to go on the moon, right? Because she was the first teacher that kid got. So the thing is that if it's an imposition from the outside, then the work and the journey is to let go of all of these outer voices and go back to your inner voice. But if the void is from within, if the emptiness is something very deep from within, then this is just my understanding from hearing and talking and reading from over the years. It is a state that a human being has been given with the will of God. It is something that has been granted to you as a state from God. And one has to surrender to that state and say, God, if this is a state given to me from you, then help me surrender into it, accept it, and say, this is from you and I accept it. I surrender to it. And if this is what I have to live with for as long as I have to live with, then, guide me to my next step. You be my hand, and in your presence and with the right intention, I open myself to your next step in my guidance. and give me gratitude for what I am in and where I am right now. Because if you read this book, Signs on the Horizon, the title of the book was so interesting because it said common and uncommon servants of Allah, right? So he gives example of this man who was a mystic, who was like not a mystic but a saint, like a waliullah in Fez, Morocco, I think, if I'm not wrong. And they said that it was very well known in the circle of those teachers that this man was in a particularly painful state of Jalal of God, in which he stayed for many years. And it was really interesting for me because he said that this man was in a state of fear of God. He stayed in a state of fear of God, of the Jalal of God for many years, which made him a very constricted and very, I don't know if he said anger, but this man stayed in a very peculiar state, spiritual state, for a very long time, for a couple of years. And after he went through that very, very painful state, now he has become the most loving, merciful, kind, soft, wise saint. But when we embark on this spiritual journey, we have to go through certain experiences that burn away some things which are a dis-ease in our soul. So Allah will put us in situations beyond our control where there's a burning away happening. It is burning away certain traits within us that are good, that are not good for our spiritual journey. So Allah will put us through this journey to heal us, but it feels like a very painful process, right? We go to the hospital and we have to go through chemo, or we have to go through very painful treatments. The treatments themselves are very painful, but they're actually for a healing, right? The injections and all of those things, the side effects of painful medicines, they're very painful in the moment, but they're actually for our healing. So these spiritual states also, they come upon us because they have to take us somewhere. They're really painful. They shake us to the core. They make us restless. They make us some of these states are very heavy. It's difficult because we have to be in a constant state of vigilance and zikr of Allah's name, because they can make us despair the mercy of God because we're in painful states. So we have to, as a spiritual seeker and a truth seeker, we have to constantly be in a state of shukr and surrender to the inner states, and not let the voices of shaitan and the voices of doubt make us feel like I'm unworthy somehow, or I'm a sinner, or I'm a bad person because of which I've gone into this and Allah is punishing me. We have to let go of that rhetoric, and we have to stay with the understanding that nothing, not a leaf falls without the will of God. All states descend upon the heart with God's permission. It is serving a purpose, and we have to wait it out with patience in a constant state of seeking, yearning, and finding presence through the zikr of the name of Allah, inshallah. So I hope that answers the question. And if you have any more, please put them in the chat while I will try to conclude the session with a dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Oh Allah, we come to you with so many parts of us that are dead, so many parts of us that need healing, that need to be filled with life, with all these different dimensions to our existence. Oh Allah, you are the most meticulous of planners. You are the best of designers. You are the most wise. You're the one who has power and qudra over everything. Oh Allah, How is it that we can knock on any other door than yours? How is it that anybody could have the power to give us or heal us in any way ever possible when all life force is you and all existence is you and there is nothing but you? Oh Allah, we are just struggling seekers. We're yearning with a flawed yearning. We are here in your presence with a yearning that you have put in our hearts. Oh Allah, Imam Zain al-Abidin says, how can I thank you when I cannot thank you for the thank you inspired me to say? Oh Allah, we're here in your presence because of your gift. There is no way we can ever give that right share of gratitude to the gifts that you give us, especially the gifts of our heart. Oh Allah, we are here with our broken, flawed, incomplete, imperfect words and imperfect knowledge and our brokenness and our doubts and our uncertainties and our confusions. But oh Allah, we come to you. We only come to you because of the hope you have put in our heart. And we come to you because of the hope that you have instilled in our hearts, because of which every day we wake up. And every day with the sun rising, we see your hope and your love and your mercy and a new drive to go through the day to accomplish something new. Oh Allah, we can only try, but you are the one that can bring our efforts to their fruition and their conclusion. And you are the one that who can put effect into our words and effectiveness in our actions. So, oh Allah, we come to you with a complete reliance, with an intention to completely let go of ourselves and rely in you completely for all the good that you can offer to us, oh Allah, with the sadaqah of the dua that Hazrat Musa does in the Quran, that we are the faqir and we are in the hopes of anything good that you can grant to us, oh Allah. Please do not look away from us as you would never. It is only our perception that makes us feel that way. Oh Allah, keep us in your presence. And oh Allah, keep us open to our presence of you so that we can never ever deprive ourselves of your love and mercy. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen.